this next series?
I forgot who I predicted. They asked me like 2 hours ago, man. So I was like, I think it's going to be Vibe. But Ryung's TVZ is really good. And my my director is telling me that I did pick Vibe, so I really hope Vibe wins. Because I don't want to be wrong.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into the game. In the top left-hand position as the green Zerg, the WCS NA winner, it is Vibe from Team Root.
USA winner. North American winner was Scarlet.
You know, I always get NA and USA confused.
Right, it's really easy because USA basically should be NA, right? I was talking to Mr. Bitter about this. I don't know why they even say NA. It should just be USA.
Yeah.
In fact, WCS Shanghai should just be called WCS USA as well. I think that's what we should go policy-wise.
It just flows off the tongue a lot better, man. That's what it is.
America. In the bottom right corner from Team Slayers, it's not Sella, it's Ryung using Sella's account. Ryung has 0-3, but just like you saw in his battle card, has a couple top 4 placing, did well in MLG, great win rate, 62% in TVZ, has beaten some of the highest names in StarCraft 2 in terms of Zerg. So his TVZ is not shabby at all, plays pretty standard. He has that mech build. Remember, he was doing double armory way before we saw MVP doing it, but he was doing kind of like an unrefined double armory build that looked a little bit silly because it felt very flimsy because he was going tank still.
Yeah.
But then MVP started going, Hellion Thors and really starting to push for safety early on. And it was actually a really cool push to see that kind of evolvement, that Ryung was trying to do it earlier, but MVP was the one that made it good.
That's right. And also, the maps were very, very different. I think MVP
is doing on dual site or something.
Yeah, it was just absurd. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do this very long-oriented, I guess, build order on one of the smallest maps in existence. It's basically the Steps of War of Muspelheim. But anyway, we're going to go into this game. We already see a command center first, which I love, love, love. I also love this early drone scout. A lot of Zerg players actually don't do this. But look what it's been able to allow Vibe to do. Do you see a spawning pool? There's no spawning pool,
There is no spawning pool. He's double hatchery and gassing before his spawning pool. And Vibe's able to do this because of the drone scout. It's just a little thing to do because it's also a respect factor. He knows Ryung can 2 racks. Ryung has 2 racks a lot, like maps like in Toon Valley and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's just a respect factor.
And seeing that refinery go down actually enables Vibe to actually say, oh, I don't really need to get Zerglings out super fast. Yes, my opponent can pressure with like 2 Marines, but the 2 Marines are going to come significantly later. My hatchery will probably be already up, and they have no defenses if he's really trying to do something like that. So it looks like Ryung will get into the base, and does he actually notice that, hey, this spawning pool is really, really late?
Yeah, he should know. It's not even 5. It's almost 5 minutes, and the pool is not done. In fact, Zerg, sometimes if you start standard speed opening, which is something that Vibe does like to do, you're already starting speed speed should already be started by 4:30, so the fact that it's severely delayed, Ryung should be suspecting something.
I don't know if he just assumes that there's a 3rd base down here, or he just says, well, I don't even know what's going on with this. I don't know. I would have to be Ryung to actually tell you exactly what it is. But Vibe is going to actually benefit from this so much more, in my opinion. Yes, the Harvester count is pretty close, but what happens is all the queens pop out at the same time, basically, and then you see the massive injects, and you just have a lot more larvae to deal with earlier on in the game, enabling you to get more units out, whether it be drones, Zerglings, etc.
Ryung gonna transition very commonly, dropping a starport after his factory. No doubt gonna go Hellion Banshee as kind of like a staple opening of all TVZ at the current stage of the metagame. Now with the double Hellion opening, it is actually pretty good, but this is something that's really cool from Vibe, that he's overmaking some Zerglings right now because he knows what his opponent's capable of. He says he most likely will go Hellions, and because that 3rd hatchery is a little bit farther spaced away and it's very open, Hellions can slide in from one direction and go out the other. You do need to be a little bit less greedy because if you kept droning from this point, Hellions can still do massive damage early on.
That's right, and that's why Vibe needs to be so comprehensive in this defense, but it looks like he's not actually looking to go on the defense. He wants to be a little bit offensive, so he's waiting for his opponent to actually step out with a couple of Hellions, and then he busts through with some Zerglings. Quite possibly, he's showing the Zerglings, which is kind of unorthodox. Normally you don't show Zerglings just to have that counterattacking threat. And it looks like he's able to do a little bit of damage here, but the Hellions are going to come in and roast a couple of these Zerglings. Nicely done by Ryung.
Yeah, Vibe just wanted to see the information that he kind of suspected in the first place. He was trying to bait out some Hellions. He only sent a few Zerglings out. And Ryung wanted to keep it to himself as close as possible, maybe surprise his opponent with maybe 6 to 8 Hellions at one time. But now Vibe has almost everything. Now the question is, will he be prepared in time for the Cloak Banshees? He may not have Spores in time, but he can drop an Overseer.
Yes, that's correct. Normally the regular build order is to go for double Evolution Chambers and then get your +1/1 melee attacks and Carapace, and then you get your Lair. Vibe is actually choosing to get a super fast Lair and a super fast Spire. Wow, Frodan. So he's looking to actually go Mutas in this position. Now, Mutas are definitely very good against mech styles, but we're not seeing a mech style at all.
No.
It's a Marine Marauder, it looks like, by those two barracks coming up. And there's a couple of barracks somewhere. Or engineering base, there you go.
Yeah, he's getting some important upgrades. Stim is a just big indication he's going to eventually transition directly to Bio. The Queen is being put at bay by the Banshee as well, and looks like the Queen will drop Vibe. Not able to protect a third. The drones are all there for the pickings. But we do see that more Zerglings are in production. The Spire is still not done. An excellent time for Ryung to be poking. The Overseer does spot the Banshee, but Vibe will have to evacuate the third, at least for now. Now, as soon as his Spire finishes, he can regain control of his third, but he doesn't want to lose too many drones. Nonetheless, I think he's done a pretty good job because the drone count kill has only been 7 for now. It could have been much worse.
Yeah, still a lot of damage being done here. And Vibe playing this so risky. I don't think he was actually expecting this much pressure, which is kind of weird because normally Terrans will always do this. But the fact of the matter is, this is supposed to punish a style like Hellion Banshee into mech, but he hasn't yet verified that Ryung is going for bio or mech. So, yes, the Mutas will pop out, but they're going to be popping out just to defend against this Banshee. Then he has to drone up because he doesn't have his 5th and 6th gas, and then he can actually pressure. And by that time, turret should be set up, 1-1 should be done. I really feel like this build isn't going to be that effective, Frodan.
There is also a vulnerability point if Terran goes for like a quick third command center. I'm talking about super quick where they delay almost everything else, because that's what happened yesterday with MMA versus Sirius. If you guys watch any of the Code 8 matches, I won't tell you what exactly happened between the series, but there was a tough point where MMA was just getting his first Marine upgrades out. Like he had Stim, but he didn't have combat shields. He didn't have 1-1, and Muse were able to poke everywhere and basically slice and dice. MMA did end up stabilizing, but the end result was that Muse were still pretty effective. So there is a small window of opportunity, but you can see Vibe's already scaled back the Muta production. He's kind of supply blocked, but right now he's focusing on just a huge layer mid-game composition with 19 Banelings finishing up.
Oh my goodness. This is going to be a very big Zergling Baneling hit. And it's going to be up to Ryung.
Free tank? Oh,
it's going to be up to Ryung to actually defend against this properly. But here we go. He's actually going in before Baneling speed is finished, Frodan.
But the Zerglings are jumping up directly into the Hellions. The Mutas, where are they for support? The tank is also doing a great job funneling all the Banelings into one point of attack. Oh, but the SCVs are all clumping up and they're trying to avoid the detonations from the Banelings. A couple go off. Baneling speed finishes just in time, perhaps surprising Ryung way more than he was prepared for. Mulas do end up dying. The Banelings also detonating on the tanks. Let's see how much damage was done. Not a lot, though. Look at how the worker count is. Not that many workers killed on Vibe's behalf, and because of triple orbital, Ryung is in a very, very nice position.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's very well saturated in his main base right now. He needs to actually send a couple to the natural, but you called it. And it's not just triple orbital. There's a 4th command center all the way in the bottom right-hand corner. It's like tucked away in that nice little crevice.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome for Ryung at this point, because obviously not only does he have the upgrade advantage, but now he knows he has the economic advantage, he has the army advantage, and Vibe took substantial losses in the early game stage. Remember, he didn't re-drone. He used all that larva directly after that to make more units, and that's going to be a very tough job for Vibe if he wants to actually stay relevant in this game. He is going over here for a counterattack, and it looks like there is a little bit of an opening, but that closed very fast.
Maybe, because Ryung is now taking a 3rd base above his main, so it's a little bit hard to kind of bounce between areas, but this sensor tower is very clutch. Look how it covers the ramp just enough. in terms of the entrance to his natural expansion. So this is a very nice spot for Ryung, very comfortable. Marine Tank is still a very strong composition. Everyone's kind of been enamored by the idea of mech, but Marine Tank's still very solid, especially for the high ground areas that you can really capitalize on tanks, if you guys can recall Polt versus DRG on Muspelheim.
And look at this, Frodan, there's an emerging attack right now. These mutas are going to try to bait Ryung's attention away from the real attack, which is going to be done at the natural. This is really, really clever, so let's see how Vibe is going to be able to pull this off. He's actually going to, yeah, he should start attacking the third base. That's going to pull all the units over. This is beautifully done. Frodan, if Vibe just connected everything.
If he was able to piece everything together, but there's also another drop in the top right corner from Ryung to kind of draw away the attention. The mutas have to fall back. Meanwhile, Vibe is also trying to switch into Infestor Tech, but let's see if Ryung is able to even forge a 2-2 timing before anything can come out. The Infestors would not even have pathogen glands by the rate of 2-2 finishing up.
That's right.
And Ryung's moving out with just his Marines, not his tanks. Oh, man.
Just taking the Watchtower, not a big deal. Putting a little bit of pressure on his opponent still, but you can see the I guess the inefficiencies of Muta at this stage. Here their Zergling Banelings come in. It's kind of a weird time to actually do this. Baneling's going to crash directly onto the siege tanks. Not really doing too much damage, Frodan. That was a wasted effort, I really feel like. Vibe just struggling to find something in this game. But it's just so far behind. At any time, there could be a ton of pressure being put on Vibe with like mass marine siege tanks, and what does Vibe really have to account for that? He doesn't really have a lot of units. Look at this, the Marines just sniping the mutas before actually dying here. Very nicely done. Yeah,
the mutas don't really do too much though. They do have that +1 flyer attacks, but nothing really else going on for them. Pathogen Gland's only about 1/3 of the way done. Vibe would love more time, and Ryung actually has 2-2 finish for quite some time. Still not really pushing it. In fact, he's playing this extremely slow, considering that he does have a 4th orbital done, so he might be trying to zone and take a 4th base and eventually just become immovable with like a maxed army with crazy resupply ability.
That's right. I actually love how Ryung is playing. I mean, this is just very classic, almost like spoon terranish. You know, just making sure you get those small little advantages, and from there you can actually exert your economy once your production gets up to the capacity, once really you have a huge bank. It's beautiful. And here we see a double attack. Muta's trying to pick up this one medevac. It will, but at what cost, really? I mean, these Mutas really don't make up that much of an army.
Yeah, they're not doing too well. The Marines, they're just pretty much siege tank fodder. You know, it's just to empower them, to bait them. Vibe also has creep spread, you know, pretty much to the right side of the map, but he doesn't have a 4th base, no map control, considering how much he had the early Muta control on the map. So Ryung is able to really zone off everything. He controls both towers. He controls the high ground. This is where tanks are beautiful. It's really easy for you to just continue to push. Kind of surprised Ryung hasn't taken out creep tumors just yet with a couple of scans, but from this point on, he's going to have 3-3, Andre. And the Banelings are still at just 2-1. Or sorry, the Zerglings are rather just still at 2-1, so it's going to be a 3 upgrade advantage.
And upgrades speak a lot, especially when you have these low HP, high DPSing units for both of these sides. I mean, you're going to see these Zerglings pretty much melt against Marines. And what'll happen directly after that is Ryung maxes a lot faster than his opponent. 7 Corruptors on the way out. Greater Spire, as you can see, is almost completed. But will Vibe be able to stop this? It's going to be very difficult, I think. I mean, the 3rd base is already going to be given up. I think Vibe might just go for a counterattack from here.
Well, he does have some Zerglings rally to the center, or to pay their daily tribute to the Space Shark. And Ryung has killed the 3rd base. There's nothing actually stopping him from just backing off and taking his 4th, maybe even his 5th, and then macro even more, and just say, I'm already going to prepare for some transition, because Vibe has 5 Broodlords out, and as great as an army Marine Tank Marauder is, they actually don't do well against a decent number of Broodlords. You can easily throw away that army, and then before you can remake it, Zerg will be crashing on your door. Yeah.
And you know what? Vibe needs a little bit of inefficiency because he's so behind in resources that he needs like that super efficiency in order for him to get back into the game. You know, something I loved about Vibe, you know, 9 out of 10 Zergs would have crashed in and tried to defend the 3rd base as hard as possible. Vibe didn't. Because think about it, that's a losing line no matter what. You're just honestly saying, let me please get lucky, and hopefully this attack is going to work. But Vibe knew there's no way I'm going to be able to break that position. Instead, what does he do? He goes and just rearranges his third base, takes it in the bottom left. Yes, he'll lose a lot of mining, but...
oh, the Broodlords are in the middle of the map. Oh, that stings. The Infestors are not there to protect, and losing 5-6 Broodlords. Vibe calls GG, the last remaining hope. Caught out of position. Ryung playing an immaculate game of TVZ on Muspelheim to take game at number 1.
So what I was saying, you know, just to move the third base, that's fine. And at least you give yourself a chance with Broodlord Infestor. You know, you can make wonders out of that composition. But Vibe just no, he didn't aim move. He just moved all of his Broodlords.
Yeah, he just M moved. Is that how
That's
it works?
An end move.
He clicked M and then moved all his Broodlords.
Yeah.
That's actually how I first started moving my units in StarCraft when I first learned how to play. Like, all right, you move, and I like hovered over the move button and it said M. I'm like, okay, M left click, M left click, M left click, and I'm like looking at my friend like Micro, and like, how are you moving so fast? But then I found out you can. There's another button on the mouse.
There's another button. There's actually 3 buttons.
Oh, the early
on the
stages
mouse,
of Frodan. The number 1 is brought to you by Audible. For a special offer on a bestseller, you can download an audiobook if you go to nasl.tv/p/audible for a special limited time offer. Check that out while we take a commercial break and figure out what map we're gonna get ready for game number 2 between Vibe and Ryung. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started, so we'll be right back.